We are on. Hello, good morning. This is what we're going to do today. We're going to look at this animation. How do you recreate this? And we're going to use the techniques from yesterday about cascading. All right. And then we're actually going to throw down a challenge with, oh, hey, look, it probably makes sense if I show you what we're talking about. That is what we are working on today. Okay. So this animation of these pink bars moving across the scene over and over and over again. And there are basically two or three things that I want to do with today's cast. One, I want to look at a technique that we talked about yesterday, the one about cascading. So we're going to align our animations. And then I'm going to throw down a challenge. How do you recreate this in a different way? And that one is actually going to use the techniques from Monday about steps. There's your hint. Now, in all of this, the other goal of doing this animation in particular is about perception, because we're going to look at this animation and I'm going to show you how to recreate it. And then the challenge is going to be, how do you recreate it in a different way? How do you get the exact same visual effect, but using a different technique? And this is a really, really important thing to learn. And I would say the only way that you really learn it is by doing it over and over again, because the better you get at seeing how you can do like a simple technique one way versus some other technique another way, gives you all these new options for creating animations. And it will actually allow you to look at something that you see online and start to decompose it and be like, oh yeah, there's this technique here and that technique there and that technique going over here for a few seconds or whatever. And then you'll be able to rebuild it yourself. So it's really good to be able to see the same kind of animation and think about it in more than one technique. Okay, so that's the goal of today, to review a couple of techniques from yesterday and then to start looking at this idea of perception. Okay, so here is our animation. And as you can see on the left in the hierarchy, we have there's actually 10 layers, all right? And also we can start to decompose this by looking at this layer. And then over here, we see that its fill color and stroke color are both pink, which means that there's these pink bars that are moving across the scene, just like that. Okay. Now I do have the scene masked. So here I'm just going to show you the technique. And that's the beginning. And that's the end state right there. Okay. So we're just like flipping back between the beginning state and the end state. Easy. Okay. So our whole animation is also, it's 4 seconds long. Okay, which means that we're going to distribute 10 animations and we're going to cascade them across 4 seconds. All right, so let's just start. We're going to create a new empty timeline. We can go up here, File, New, Empty Timeline. And that background, these colors can be whatever you want them to be. I'm going to change the background color to that blue that we had. And then I am going to add a rectangle. And I'm going to make that timeline a little bit bigger like that. I'm going to grab that stroke color and just drop it on. And again, if you've noticed, we are in relative mode. If you aren't, you can turn on relative mode by pressing Command Option R. You can toggle it on and off, or click up here on this little magnet icon right there. Okay. So next we are going to actually resize our scene, which is something I should have done first, since we have 5 bars that are going to go across this. We just want to make it a nice even number just so we can think about it. And let's make it 400. Content on resize was on, but that's okay because we're still in relative mode. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just drag this up into the top corner like that. Just like that. And I'm going to drag it across up to 400. And if I've missed that by just a little bit, I'm going to edit it in this panel here. And we're going to make sure that position is right dead center. Also, it is 400 high by 400 wide, and there's 5 of them, so that means that the height is actually going to be 80. And it also means that this Y position should be 40. Okay? So we were just editing these. Position is 200, Y is 40, size is 400 by 80. And now I am going to copy and paste 1, 2, 3, 4 more times. Now I am going to drag this to the bottom and command snap it like that. And then I'm going to select all my layers and I'm going to align them to the left and I'm going to distribute them vertically. Okay, so we have our first 5 layers. Let's go ahead and rename them quickly because this is really intense. R0. I program, so I like to start my counts with 0. Okay, and then let's just reorder those. I like to have my layers in the same sort of visual hierarchy as they are on the scene. Okay, so R0 is at the top, R4 is at the bottom. Now, from what I remember, the animations that we were creating were about 1.2 seconds long, just from having looked at stairs really briefly. It doesn't really matter the speed, because you can always adjust that. You can always adjust the timing and things like that. But I mean, the main thing here is we're just looking at the offsetting of animations and making them consistent. Okay, so let's just actually start by changing this animation so that all of these are out to the right. Okay, so I'm just going to shift and move them out, and then let's undo and let's go back and change our timeline time to the beginning or to the end of the animation. Let's actually zoom in a little bit here. I noticed too that it was zoomed out to the other animation's length or timeline's length. The first one, that's 4 seconds. Okay, so here I've got the playhead. I'm moving it to 1, and now I'm pressing Shift and Command, and I'm just snapping those to the edge. The other thing I would like to check too, just to make sure they're in the right position, is if I mask those, if I mask the scene right up here by clicking this little square icon, you can see that there's a tiny little bit of pink. The reason why that exists is because we do have a stroke width of 4. So what we're going to want to do, and it's just hanging off, so it's like the edge is right there and then the stroke width comes outside of the frame of the shape. So we're just going to move all of these up by just a touch. So let's go 1, 2, and there we go. I've just adjusted the position to 602, and now they're hanging completely off the edge of that scene. So let's turn this back on now, and let's look at what our animations look like. Okay, there we go. So we have 5 1-second animations that all start at the same time. Let's scale those back a little bit. Let's maybe make them 0.8, and then let's offset them each by maybe, I don't know, 1/10 of a second, something like that, which would mean that this one would go 4.4 forwards, like this, and then shift, drag, shift and drag, shift and drag, and I'm going to select all of my tracks. The way I did that is I just pressed Command A. I can also area select, and now I'm going to distribute those by the front end. Let's grab these and just move them out a little bit further, just like that. And now Command A and distribute, and there we have our animations overlapping. Okay, there we go, just like that. So let's put that on repeat. Let's look at that. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's mask that out. That's pretty good. Yep, that's pretty good. It's a bit fast. I think maybe it could be a bit faster. Oh, there goes my music. I guess the battery in my little speaker died. It's a bit fast for me. Let's go and shrink these down. Yeah, let's do that now. Let's make these all 0.6. So we're going to bring this back by 0.2 seconds. And then we're going to do one more distribute by moving this one again to the end to 1.2, selecting everything and redistributing. Yeah, I think that's a little bit better. Yeah, okay, that's a little bit better. All right, so let's just leave it like that for now. Now the next thing is that we're going to do, and we're going to make this really easy on ourselves, is to create the next part of the animation. Now, what is the next part of the animation? Well, it's just those all coming back in, right? So we have all of our layers moving out. And then what we want is we want just all of the layers moving in. So should we just copy and paste everything? I think so. Let's do it. All right, select all of your layers in the hierarchy panel. And we're going to press Command C to copy. We're going to move back to the beginning of the timeline, and we are going to edit, paste, in place with key values. And now we have all these lovely new ugly names. So let's call this one, let's do it. They are in order more or less. R5. And then we go down, R6, enter, R7, enter, press down, enter, R8, enter, press down, enter, R9, enter. And for consistency, let's just drag those all to the bottom. So now if I press play, we should have the exact same effect because they are all doing the same thing. They're all moving from the left to the right, and they're all starting at the same position. Now, we don't want the second set to start at the same position. We actually want the second set to start earlier. So what we'll do is we're going to turn on relative mode because we don't want to break the animations. We want to preserve the animations. We just want to shift everything in the horizontal plane back a little bit, whichever direction. That way? That way. For me, it's this way. Okay, so we want to shift everything while preserving those animations. So let's do that. We turn on relative mode, and we take our R5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, and let's move it to 0. So that's moving things back a little bit. And let's turn off the masking to the scene. Let's expand this for a little bit. And what we're going to do is we're just going to select those again. And we're going to just shift and command, just like we did before, and snap into place. And just like we did with the other one, this should be minus 202. Okay, so we add 2 to just compensate for the 4-point width of our lines. And then if I went like this and I just turn these off, then we mask, then you can also see up here that that first one is off the scene properly. Okay, so we'll just turn that one back on. And now the last thing we want to do, okay, so if we hit play now, what's going to happen is they're all going to move at the same time. There you go. It's going to look like nothing is changing, but really everything is. So if I select everything, actually it's easier if I do it like this. See, everything is moving just like that throughout the entire thing, but it just looks solid. So now what we're going to do is we're going to offset our animations. We're going to go like this. We're going to undo, we're going to press Option. Option clicking this, just like in Finder, will unfurl everything. Option clicking the little triangle beside one of these tracks. And we're going to just drag this all the way out to 1.2. That's going to make our animation now 2.4 seconds long. And let's hit play. There we go. Okay. Getting there. So it's still a little bit fast. Now what we can do is we can just take that animation or that timeline right here, and we're going to click the little clock icon. We're going to press 4, and we're going to scale our animation out to 4 seconds long. And there you go. There is our animation. If I turn on masking again, you see it? Boom, and then it resets. All right. So let's have a look at our final timeline and then just think about the concepts that we did today. All right. So let's press play, let that run while I'm talking. So we have 5 layers that move out and then 5 layers that move in. We distributed the animations and then we duplicated all those layers. We used relative mode to shift the new layers back, and then we selected all of these down here and we shifted their animations forward. Then we scaled our timeline up to 4 seconds long and we finished this animation. Okay. So this used yesterday's techniques of distributing animations. And now we're going to talk about the challenge. All right. Okay. So the challenge is this. Have a look at the animation. And I want you to be able to, so the challenge for tomorrow is to rebuild this animation using only one set of shapes. Okay. And I gave a hint a little bit earlier. So if you were watching a little bit earlier, you might want to go back when I start talking about the animation. There's a little hint in there. I'll give you one more hint. And that is there are 3 ways. There are at least 3 ways that I can think of right now of rebuilding this entire animation with just 5 layers. Okay? With just one set of layers. So I will see you tomorrow. Okay? And we'll discuss this and we'll show you another one of the techniques, maybe 2 or 3. Okay. Talk to you soon.